You're being hunted. Right now, as you watch this, there are people in your life who can smell your empathy like predators smell fear. They've identified you as someone who gives unlimited chances, who believes people can change, who feels guilty about having boundaries, and they are systematically destroying your psychological well-being while convincing you it's your fault. The person who makes you feel crazy for remembering what they said yesterday. The one who has a crisis every time you try to focus on yourself. The one who love-bombed you for 3 months, then turned ice cold the moment you were hooked. The one who makes you feel selfish for having basic needs. The one who's never wrong about anything, ever. The one who becomes exactly who you need them to be until they get what they want. You know exactly who I'm talking about, don't you? That sick feeling in your stomach right now. That's your psychological immune system screaming warnings you've been trained to ignore. Carl Jung spent his entire career studying these psychological predators. He identified 6 specific archetypes that hunt empathetic people like you for psychological food. And here's the part that will make you angry. They're not mentally ill, they're not broken, they're not hurt people hurting people. They're psychologically sophisticated hunters who have studied your patterns better than you have. The Shadow Projector who accuses you of exactly what they're doing to you. The energy vampire who makes their emotional state your responsibility. The false prophet who promises change but only delivers more pain. The boundary assassin who systematically destroys every limit you try to set. The emotional terrorist who threatens chaos whenever you seek peace. And the most dangerous of all, the mirror manipulator who becomes whoever you need them to be until they've completely consumed your reality. Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." But here's what he really meant. These people are feeding off the parts of yourself you haven't learned to protect yet. And until you develop what Jung called psychological discernment, you will continue to be prey. Today, that ends. Today, you learn to recognize the psychological signatures of each archetype. More importantly, you learn to become the type of person they can't touch, someone who trusts their own psychological radar more than other people's performances. The question is, are you ready to see people as they truly are, not as you hoped they could become? But before we reveal Jung's 6 dangerous archetypes, we need to understand why you became a target in the first place. And here's the most important part. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it. You see, from childhood, you've been psychologically programmed to be prey. Your parents taught you to be nice to everyone. Your teachers rewarded you for being the peacemaker. Your religion told you to turn the other cheek. Society convinced you that being a good person means giving everyone unlimited chances, that judging people's character makes you negative, that having boundaries means you're not a team player. This conditioning didn't just shape your behavior, it rewired your psychological immune system to reject the very instincts that could protect you. Every time your gut told you someone was dangerous, you were taught to silence that voice. Every time your body tensed around someone toxic, you were conditioned to ignore the warning. They turned your ability to see potential in others into a weapon against your own well-being. Jung understood that what we call the persona, the mask we wear in social situations, often conceals something much darker underneath. But here's what's truly sinister. Psychological predators have learned to weaponize your inability to see behind their mask. The people who demand your trust most loudly are usually compensating for their complete lack of trustworthiness. The ones who talk endlessly about loyalty have already betrayed you in their minds. The ones who insist they're just being honest are often weaving the most sophisticated lies you'll ever encounter. Think about the last person who truly betrayed your trust. I want you to stop and think. What were the warning signs you ignored? Was it how they spoke about their ex with just a little too much venom? The way they tested small boundaries to see if you'd enforce them? How they made you feel special for tolerating behavior that made others run? The subtle way they positioned themselves as the victim in every story they told? Your intuition knew. Your body knew. That tight feeling in your chest when they walked in the room knew. Your psychological radar was screaming warnings, but decades of social conditioning told you to ignore them. You were taught that listening to your instincts made you judgmental, that protecting your energy made you selfish, that questioning people's motives made you paranoid. Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Toxic people don't randomly target victims. They are psychological hunters who can identify empathetic, boundaryless individuals within minutes of meeting them. They read your micro-expressions, your response patterns, your need to be understood. They can sense your goodness, like sharks smell blood in water, and they've developed sophisticated psychological strategies to exploit exactly those qualities that make you a beautiful human being. You've been taught that your sensitivity is a weakness. Jung understood it's actually a superpower when you learn to trust it instead of suppress it. You've been told your ability to spot inconsistencies makes you overthinking. Jung knew it's psychological intelligence that most people never develop. You've been convinced that your discomfort around certain people is social anxiety. Jung recognized it as your psyche protecting you from psychological parasites. But here's the truly disturbing truth. These people have been studying your patterns while you've been studying their potential. While you've been giving them the benefit of the doubt, they've been mapping your psychological vulnerabilities. While you've been hoping they'll change, they've been calculating exactly how much they can take from you before you finally wake up. Let me give you a preview of what we're dealing with. Type 1, the Shadow Projector. They accuse you of exactly what they're doing to you. If they're lying, they'll call you dishonest. If they're manipulating, they'll say you're controlling them. They've weaponized your self-reflection against you. Type 2, the Energy Vampire. They've mastered making their problems your responsibility while remaining completely unavailable for yours. Every conversation leaves you drained while they seem mysteriously energized by your suffering. Type 3, the False Prophet. They promise transformation, growth, and change, but only deliver more sophisticated forms of the same chaos and disappointment. They keep you hooked on potential that will never manifest. But these first 3 are nothing compared to the psychological devastation of the final 3 archetypes Jung identified. The ones who don't just drain your energy, they systematically destroy your ability to trust your own reality. But that's just the beginning. The other 3 types are even more dangerous because they're harder to spot. And if you're recognizing these patterns in your own life right now, if you're feeling that uncomfortable recognition in your chest, then subscribe to this channel because we're about to go much deeper into Jung's psychological insights. Hit that notification bell, because understanding your own psychological patterns is the first step to protecting them from predators. But that's what we'll talk about in the next part, how Jung's remaining 3 dangerous types operate. The boundary assassin, who systematically destroys your limits, the emotional terrorist who holds your peace hostage, and the mirror manipulator who becomes whoever you need them to be. How they use your own unconscious patterns against you, and why everything you've been taught about giving people chances is actually keeping you trapped in cycles of psychological abuse. The manipulation goes deeper than you think. These 6 types aren't just taking advantage of your kindness. They're systematically dismantling your ability to trust your own judgment. Every time you ignore a red flag, every time you make excuses for their behavior, every time you convince yourself they'll change, you're training yourself to distrust the very intuition that could protect you. Jung called this the participation mystique, the way we unconsciously merge with others' psychological states, taking on their emotions, their problems, their chaos as if it were our own. And certain personality types have weaponized this natural human tendency into a sophisticated system of control. How long will you continue to sacrifice your peace of mind for people who wouldn't sacrifice their comfort for your basic respect? Now let's examine the remaining 3 types that Jung warned us about. The ones that don't just drain your energy, but systematically dismantle your grip on reality itself. Type 4, The boundary assassin. They don't violate your boundaries all at once. That would be too obvious. Instead, they perform psychological surgery on your limits, cutting them away piece by piece until you don't even remember you once had them. It starts small. They show up 15 minutes late and gauge your reaction. When you say nothing, they know they found soft tissue. Next time, it's 30 minutes. Then they forget plans entirely. Before you know it, you're living in a reality where their comfort is your responsibility and your needs are negotiable inconveniences. Type 5. The emotional terrorist. They've weaponized your desire for peace against you. The moment you try to address their behavior, they escalate to chaos. Set a boundary. They threaten self-harm. Try to leave. They have a complete breakdown that somehow becomes your fault. Want to focus on yourself for 5 minutes? Suddenly, they're having the worst crisis of their life, and you're selfish for not dropping everything. They've turned your emotional stability into a hostage situation where you're always negotiating with terrorists. Type 6. The Mirror Manipulator. This is Jung's most terrifying discovery. They don't have a consistent personality. They become whatever psychological puzzle piece you're missing. Feeling lonely? They're suddenly the most attentive person you've ever met. Struggling with confidence? They reflect back unwavering belief in you. Dealing with trauma? They become the perfect wounded healer who understands your pain. But it's all calculated performance, and the moment they've secured your psychological dependency, the mask doesn't just slip. It disintegrates entirely, leaving you wondering if the person you fell for ever existed at all. Jung understood something that will make your stomach drop. These people study you more carefully than you study yourself. While you're trying to be authentic, they're cataloging your psychological weaknesses. While you're hoping for genuine connection, they're running experiments on your emotional responses. While you're building trust, they're building a psychological profile they'll use to control you. Here's the part that will make you angry. Jung discovered that every human psyche seeks wholeness through what he called projection. We unconsciously look for people who carry qualities we think we lack. The manipulative people in your life have weaponized this natural process. They position themselves as the missing piece of your psychological puzzle, then use that position to systematically hollow you out from the inside. The boundary assassin presents themselves as easygoing when you're tired of conflict. The emotional terrorist presents themselves as passionate when you feel emotionally numb. The mirror manipulator becomes whoever you need them to be in that exact moment. Not because they care about your needs, but because they're mapping your psychological architecture for future exploitation. This is why you keep attracting the same patterns in different bodies. Your unconscious mind is seeking integration, seeking to develop the qualities you haven't fully claimed in yourself. But instead of doing the inner work to develop healthy boundaries, appropriate selfishness, and character discernment, you keep trying to find these qualities in other people. And psychological predators have learned to exploit this tendency like a science. Jung called this the shadow, the rejected aspects of yourself that you haven't integrated. When you haven't developed your own capacity to say no, you attract boundary assassins who will say no for you to everything you actually want. When you haven't learned to manage your own emotional volatility, you attract emotional terrorists who will manage it through chaos and drama. When you haven't developed a solid sense of self, you attract mirror manipulators who will show you exactly who you could be, then snatch it away once you're addicted to their reflection. Your beautiful qualities, your empathy, your hope, your desire to help, become psychological feeding tubes in the wrong hands. Every time you explain yourself to someone who's determined to misunderstand you, every time you apologize for having needs, every time you give one more chance to someone who's already shown you their character, you're not being loving. You're being a willing participant in your own psychological destruction. But here's Jung's most crucial insight. These 6 types aren't just random toxic people who happen to find you. They're psychological mirrors reflecting the exact qualities you need to develop within yourself. The Shadow Projector is showing you that you need to stop absorbing other people's projections. The Energy Vampire is showing you that you need to become selective about where you invest your life force. The False Prophet is showing you that you need to stop believing in other people's potential more than they believe in it themselves. The Boundary Assassin is teaching you that without limits, you don't exist as a separate person. The Emotional Terrorist is showing you that peace bought through enabling chaos isn't peace at all. It's psychological slavery. The Mirror Manipulator is revealing that you need to develop such a solid sense of self that you can't be fooled by someone else's performance of who you wish you could be. Instead of learning these lessons and integrating them into your own psychological structure, you keep trying to fix them, heal them, love them into wholeness, and that's exactly how they maintain their grip on your reality. But what if I told you that Jung discovered a way to become completely immune to all 6 types? A psychological strategy so powerful that manipulative people will sense it immediately and avoid you entirely. That's what we're going to explore next. Jung's framework for becoming the type of person these predators can't touch. Here's where everything changes. Jung discovered that the ultimate power move against psychological manipulation isn't arguing, explaining, or trying to make them understand. It's what he called psychological withdrawal, the strategic removal of your emotional energy from situations and people that don't deserve access to it. But this isn't just theory. Let me show you exactly what this looks like with each of the 6 types. Against the Shadow Projector. When they accuse you of being controlling while they're literally trying to control your reality, you don't defend yourself. You don't explain how you're actually not controlling. You simply say, "I can see you feel that way," and walk away. Watch how they scramble when their projection has nothing to stick to. Against the Energy Vampire. When they launch into their latest crisis that somehow requires your immediate emotional labor, you don't rush to solve it. You say, "That sounds challenging. I trust you'll figure it out," and change the subject or leave. No explanation, no guilt, no feeding the machine that runs on your depletion. Against the False Prophet. When they promise they're working on themselves for the 100th time, you don't get hopeful. You don't give them another chance to prove their growth. You simply say, "Actions speak louder than words," and judge them by their behavior, not their promises. Stop being addicted to their potential. Against the Boundary Assassin. When they push against your limits, you don't negotiate. You don't explain why the boundary exists. You enforce it with the emotional temperature of stating a fact. "I won't be available for that," becomes as unchangeable as gravity. They'll test it. You'll hold it. They'll move on to easier prey. Against the Emotional Terrorist. This is where most people break. But Jung's approach is surgical. When they threaten self-harm or have a breakdown because you set a boundary, you don't take responsibility for their emotional volatility. You say, "I'm not qualified to handle this. You should speak to a professional," and you remove yourself from the situation. You refuse to negotiate with emotional terrorism. Against the Mirror Manipulator. When you catch them shifting personalities to match what they think you want, you don't pretend you didn't notice. You trust your observation over their performance. You start asking direct questions about their past statements that contradict their current persona. Watch how quickly the mask slips when they realize you're actually paying attention to their inconsistencies. When you stop explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you, something profound happens. The entire dynamic shifts. They can't push your buttons because you've removed the buttons entirely. They can't guilt-trip you because you're no longer emotionally available to absorb their projections. They can't manipulate your empathy because you've become psychologically intelligent about where you invest it. But here's what Jung understood that will change everything. When you implement this approach, you'll witness something terrifying and beautiful. The people around you will go into complete psychological crisis. The energy vampires will create bigger emergencies, desperately trying to re-establish their feeding tube. The emotional terrorists will escalate their threats, panicking that their hostage has escaped. The mirror manipulators will cycle through personalities frantically, trying to find the version that hooks you back in. This chaos isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. This is the sound of psychological predators realizing their food source has become unavailable. This is what Jung called the extinction burst, the desperate intensification of manipulative behavior right before it dies completely. You'll feel it in your body first. That constant knot in your stomach when you see their name on your phone. It disappears. That exhaustion after spending time with them. Gone. That feeling of walking on eggshells around their moods. Evaporated. You'll realize you've been holding your breath around these people for years, and suddenly you can breathe freely again. But Jung warned that this transformation comes with what he called the dark night of the psychological soul. Your conditioning will scream that you're becoming heartless. The voice in your head that was programmed to be everyone's emotional caretaker will tell you that you're abandoning people who need you. You'll feel guilty for not taking responsibility for other adults' emotional states. Listen carefully. That guilt is not your moral compass. That guilt is your psychological programming trying to pull you back into familiar dysfunction. The people who benefited from your boundaryless existence will mobilize every manipulation tactic they know to restore the status quo where your energy belonged to them. But something extraordinary happens when you refuse to go back. You'll notice that your energy, which used to be scattered across managing everyone else's emotional emergencies, consolidates into something powerful and focused. You'll discover that you have bandwidth for your own dreams, your own goals, your own emotional experiences. You'll find yourself attracted to completely different types of people, individuals who add to your energy instead of subtracting from it. The people who remain in your life after this psychological evolution will be there because they genuinely enjoy your company, not because they need something from you. Your relationships become reciprocal instead of extractive. Your conversations become energizing instead of draining. You become someone that manipulative people instinctively avoid, while psychologically healthy individuals are naturally drawn to your authentic presence. Jung understood that becoming psychologically whole requires disappointing the people who built their entire relationship with you around your predictable dysfunction. It requires being called selfish by people who were selfishly consuming your life force. It requires being labeled cold by people who were used to your emotional warmth being available on demand for their convenience. But here's Jung's final revelation. You're not becoming cold or heartless. You're becoming psychologically sovereign. You're reclaiming the energy that rightfully belongs to you and learning to invest it consciously rather than having it unconsciously drained by psychological parasites. The question isn't whether you deserve this freedom. You do. The question is, are you ready to stop being a willing participant in your own psychological exploitation? Are you ready to become the type of person that manipulators can't touch because you've learned to trust your own psychological reality more than their carefully crafted performances? First comes the silence. The uncomfortable quiet where you stop filling every space with explanations, stop rushing to smooth over every conflict, stop taking responsibility for everyone else's emotional experience. This silence will feel foreign because you've spent so long being everyone's emotional manager, everyone's problem solver, everyone's psychological support system. But Jung understood that this silence isn't emptiness. It's the space where your authentic self finally has room to emerge. In that silence, you'll start to hear your own voice, your own needs, your own psychological wisdom that's been drowned out by everyone else's drama. Then comes the purification. The people who are only in your life to use your energy will naturally fall away. The relationships that were built on your overgiving and their under-reciprocating will dissolve. This isn't loss. This is your psychological immune system finally functioning correctly. You'll be amazed at how much energy you have when you stop giving it away to psychological parasites. How much clearer your thinking becomes when you're not constantly processing other people's manufactured crises. How much stronger your intuition grows when you stop doubting it to make others comfortable. But here's what Jung promised, and what I promise you. A completely new kind of strength emerges. Not the brittle strength of the people-pleaser who collapses when they can't make everyone happy, but the flexible strength of someone who knows their own psychological worth and protects it accordingly. People will start to respect you differently. They'll stop bringing their drama to you because they sense you won't absorb it. They'll stop testing your boundaries because you've demonstrated that you have them. They'll stop taking you for granted because you've shown them that your energy is precious and must be earned. The individuals who remain in your life will be there because they genuinely enjoy your company, not because they need something from you. Your relationships will become reciprocal instead of extractive. Your conversations will become energizing instead of draining. You'll attract different people entirely. Individuals who are also psychologically aware, who also value boundaries, who also understand that real love includes respect for each other's psychological space. You'll find yourself in rooms full of people who add to your energy instead of subtracting from it. Yes, you'll lose people. You'll lose the emotional vampires who kept you feeling needed. You'll lose the manipulators who kept you feeling special through intermittent reinforcement. You'll lose the boundary pushers who kept you feeling important through manufactured crises. But what you'll gain is your life back, your energy back, your peace of mind back, your ability to trust your own judgment back, your capacity for genuine relationships back. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who everyone needs you to be, not who makes everyone else comfortable, who you truly are when you're not performing for psychological parasites or managing other people's emotions." Here's my question for you. Are you ready to trust your psychological intuition? Are you ready to protect your energy like the precious resource it is? Are you ready to disappoint people who have built their relationship with you around your predictable overgiving? Tell me in the comments. Are you ready to become psychologically sovereign? Write, "I choose discernment," if you're ready to trust Jung's wisdom and your own psychological radar. Write, "I protect my energy," if you're ready to stop being everyone else's emotional support system at the expense of your own psychological health. Your journey towards psychological wholeness starts the moment you decide that your peace of mind is more important than everyone else's comfort with your boundaries. The moment you choose conscious discernment over unconscious people-pleasing. The moment you trust Jung's revolutionary insight that knowing your own darkness is indeed the best method for dealing with the darkness in others. The question isn't whether you deserve psychological peace. You do. The question is, will you finally choose it?